On a typhoon day, the firefighter husband chose to save Bai Yueguang. The typhoon caused a sudden flash flood. As a firefighter husband, he left me, who was pregnant, to save his Bai Yueguang. I watched him go away without a trace of resentment. Because in the previous life, he saved me first. As a result, the flash flood broke out again, causing his Bai Yueguang to die in the flash flood, and even the body could not be found. Later, he adopted Bai Yueguang's child with uremia and forced me to donate a kidney to the child. If it weren't for you, how could Scarlet die and how could her child be without a mother? I was disemboweled by him, the dead fetus was thrown out, and I was tied to the operating table of the Black Clinic. Ignoring my bloody stomach, he dug out my kidney and let me die directly on the operating table. When I came to my senses, I was reborn back to the time when the flash flood broke out. This time, I will help you too, poor couples. The typhoon hit and the flash flood broke out suddenly. My ears were filled with endless screams and panicked cries for help. I protected my stomach and held on to the life-saving float. In the distance, rescuers were coming towards us by boat. Captain's sister-in-law. Are you okay? Victor quickly organized the rescue, and all the people trapped here were transferred to the boat one by one. In the end, under Victor's righteousness, Scarlet and I became the last two people who did not get on the boat. There was only one place on the boat, and there was only one life jacket left. I was pale and didn't speak. Scarlet was tightly held by Victor on the boat, her voice trembling, and she looked like she was about to cry. Victor, will I die here? Her eyes were wet, like the eyes of a spirit deer, making people fall in love. Victor had almost no hesitation and resolutely held Scarlet's hand. No, believe me, I will never let anything happen to you. His tone was extremely gentle, and he never thought that I was his real wife. Maybe at this moment, he hoped that his wife was Scarlet. He finally saved her. One of the teammates saw that Victor didn't care about me at all, and hurriedly said, Captain, what about my sister-in-law? Victor turned his head and looked at me, and said coldly, Scarlet can't hold on any longer. You are in such good physical condition that you can hold on until the next rescue ship comes. The teammates hurriedly stopped Victor's behavior. My sister-in-law is pregnant, she can't stay in the water for a long time. Victor's face immediately sank, and his tone was very bad. If she didn't insist on coming, how could this happen? Now it's good so many people have to take care of her, a pregnant woman, otherwise the boat would have left long ago. Always getting others involved, now you are asking for trouble. The people who were hiding with him heard him say this, and in order to vent their panic, they all called me a bitch and said that I would not die well. The woman closest to me had already cried and her eyes were red. When she heard this, she reached out and grabbed my hair. It's all you. Bitch. My child is gone because of you. If you weren't here, my child would definitely be able to get on the boat. Give me back my child. She grabbed my hair with one hand and hit my stomach hard with the other hand. I was pulled off balance, and the sharp pain from my stomach made me unable to hold the driftwood. She pressed my head from time to time and drowned me in the water. When I was about to suffocate, Victor's teammates discovered this scene and shouted a few words loudly, and she reluctantly let me go. I curled up in pain and convulsed all over, but no one noticed anything unusual. Scarlet's face was pale, but the smile at the corner of her mouth was very obvious. When she looked at me, there was some pride in her eyes, as if she was mocking me. And the next second, she spoke softly, Victor, don't give up Sister Luna for me, and she has your child. I don't deserve you to be so good to me. I am already satisfied to meet you in this life. Even if I die, it doesn't matter. Victor's eyes were red after hearing this, and he immediately leaned over to hug her, with an extremely affirmative tone. Scarlet, I Victor swear I will definitely let you survive. Then, he snatched the life jacket from his teammate's hand and insisted on putting it on Scarlet. The teammate shouted in pain, Captain's sister-in-law is still down there. Victor ignored the shouting of his teammates, put on the life jacket for Scarlet and looked at me, his eyes full of indifference. You are pretending to be like this now, aren't you? Just trying to make me save you first so that Scarlet's child will become an orphan. It was you who caused me and Scarlet to be unable to be together back then. You deserve this ending today. Then he snorted coldly, you care about her so much, are you having an affair with her? My teammates shut up subconsciously. They didn't expect Victor to slander me like this, and I watched their quarrel with a pale face. The pain in my body made me want to ask for help subconsciously, but I suppressed that help that was about to come out. The ending of the last life was vivid in my mind. The bed in the private clinic was unusually cold. I was cut open, the dead fetus was thrown away, I was unable to resist, and one of my kidneys was taken out to give to Scarlet's child. I didn't even last 5 minutes on the operating table. Since he hates me to this extent, I will do as he wishes. I will set them free. I will never disturb their lives again. When my hands were about to lose strength and let go of the driftwood, I smiled slightly in Victor's surprised eyes. Victor, we will never see each other again. I pushed the float in my hand away and let the flood wash me away. The huge impact made me bump in the water. A lot of flood water poured into my nose and mouth. My lungs seemed to explode. My body hit the rocks in the river. My bones were about to break. The pain from my stomach was particularly sharp and swept through my body. I slowly lost consciousness, and in a daze I heard the noise of the crowd again. I didn't know where I drifted to. I was suddenly picked up by someone. The floating and weightless feeling of my body in the water disappeared, but I had no strength to control it. Blood flowed from under me, dyeing the turbid river water red. I squinted and looked weakly at the chaotic crowd. It was Victor again. "Let Scarlet go first, her hand is injured." The rescuer who was carrying me shouted in panic, "Let us go first. The victim is a pregnant woman. Her right hand and right lower limb are already bloody and her lower body is bleeding. There are signs of miscarriage. She can't wait. No wonder it hurts so much, it turns out that she's already bloody and has miscarried." Victor ignored the advice and insisted on pushing Scarlet to the ambulance, shouting, "Scarlet's hand is injured, she needs to be treated first. What if she can't play the piano in the future, can you bear this responsibility?" Victor's teammates heard my condition in the noise and hurriedly broke through the crowd and walked towards me. After just one glance, he frowned and looked panicked, turned his head and shouted at Victor, "Victor, sister-in-law has lost too much blood, she is now unconscious, she can't wait." Victor looked at me with disgust. "Why are you pretending? Why do you have to compete with Scarlet?" Scarlet's eyes turned red when she heard this, and she said in a delicate voice, "Victor, let Sister Luna get on the ambulance first." "I'm fine, but Sister Luna is your wife, you have to save Sister Luna's life first. And at the beginning, it was Sister Luna who gave me the opportunity to play the piano. I should give all these back to her." As she said this, Shukong wiped her tears and was about to turn over, but was stopped by Victor. "Your hands can't wait any longer. Playing the piano is a lifelong thing. How can you let Luna go just because she pretended to be unconscious? You have paid enough. She has a good physical fitness and can wait until the next ambulance." My hands and feet were already bloody and I was unconscious. In front of so many people, he could still say that I pretended to be unconscious. I smiled helplessly. He pushed Scarlet into the ambulance regardless of the medical staff's obstruction. "You guys take Scarlet away to treat her wound first, Luna just wanted to die, now she deserves it. She doesn't want her own life, why are you still in a hurry?" The teammate clenched his fists and rushed forward to pull Scarlet down. Victor stopped him and pushed him away. "What are you doing? What will happen if you let her wait?" The teammate's face was pale with anger. "Do you know she's dying?" Victor looked at him with contempt. "You got me right, right? You really have an affair with her, so you care about her so much?" The teammate couldn't control his emotions anymore and punched him in the face. "You beast, you don't care about your wife, but you care about the mistress, you are really good." As soon as he finished speaking, another ambulance arrived. The rescuers didn't care about them fighting and carried me to the ambulance. When they stopped, Victor looked at me with swollen corners of his mouth, and then wiped the blood from his mouth and turned his head to continue caring about Scarlet. I got on the ambulance with the help of the rescuers. The medical staff couldn't help but exclaimed when they saw my injuries. Seeing them hesitate to speak, I knew that it was probably very bad. I couldn't hold on any longer and fainted in the ambulance. In a daze, the past events emerged in my mind. My family and Victor are old friends and we have a very good relationship since childhood. We have been in the same class since childhood. When we went to school, he would always wait for me at the door to go together. When I was scolded by my parents, he would stand up and take all the blame for me. After graduating from high school, we were together naturally. But the appearance of Scarlet made our relationship deteriorate sharply. I am the principal pianist of the university orchestra. The school originally recommended me and Victor to participate in a piano duet singing competition, but I had to withdraw because of the recurrence of my wrist injury. Finally, Scarlet stood out from the crowd, replaced me, and became Victor's new partner. Everyone in the group was my good friend and had a close relationship with me. Originally, they had no ill will towards Scarlet. But Scarlet always stabbed me in the back in front of them, so my friends tacitly began to stay away from her. I would not wait for her to go with me during training and would not invite her to eat during team building. Victor thought it was my instruction that Scarlet was subjected to the cold violence of the group without knowing the truth. The young and rich boy always thought he could save the little white flower trapped in the swamp. Since then, Victor has become Scarlet's only friend and resolutely broke up with me. He said, "Luna, Scarlet has been isolated by the people in the group because of you, what else do you want? I didn't expect you to be such a woman who likes female competition, targeting an innocent girl so much. Let's break up." But I loved Victor too deeply in my previous life. After he said break up, I did a lot to win him back. But I didn't expect that at my birthday party that year, Scarlet had sex with an outsider in my room in order to frame me, and everyone saw it. She blamed me for this and cried heartbreakingly, "Sister Luna, even if you don't like me, you can't hurt me like this." Victor turned around and slapped me loudly. "Luna, you vicious woman. I really didn't expect you to destroy Scarlet in order to win me back. I was yelled at by Victor at my birthday party and turned pale. Everyone was watching me laugh. After that day, Scarlet dropped out of school because of pregnancy and Victor seemed to disappear from my life. Victor's grandmother was also at the party and was shocked and sent to the hospital. One day 5 months later, when I went to the hospital to see her, Scarlet had just left and I found that my grandmother had passed away. Since then, Victor has been absent-minded every day. My grandmother watched Victor and I grow up and she always hoped that we would be well. Her biggest wish was to see us get married and have children with her own eyes. So on the day Scarlet gave birth, Victor's parents forced us to get married and get a marriage certificate. He was unable to accompany the birth, and Victor's disgust for me had reached its peak. Don't think that I will fall in love with you just because you use my family's business to force my parents to let me marry you. What's more, you killed Grandma, I will never forgive you in this life. You only deserve to live in guilt and repent for all eternity. Victor even became a firefighter and I couldn't see him at all. Whenever he was on vacation, he would always go to Scarlet's residence. They were a real family. In my last life, I was so jealous that I wanted Scarlet to die. Scarlet's child was born and she suffered from uremia, which is rare in young children. After finally finding a kidney source, Victor drank all night and forced me to have sex with him when he came back, thinking I was Scarlet, which made me pregnant. In order to monitor them, I directly booked the same homestay and threatened Victor with my children and property to save me in the mountain torrent, otherwise both parents would not let him go and he would not get a penny. He hated me even more, but later, on the operating table, I finally realized that in his heart, I would never be as good as Scarlet. He never loved me. Fortunately, I still have a chance to start over. In this life, everything is in time. When I woke up again, I was awakened by pain. The dull pain all over my body made me unable to restrain my low voice. I lay on the bed with a ventilator, gasping for air. Surrounding me were Victor's father, Victor's mother, and my parents. The doctor was relieved to see that I finally woke up. The lungs were infected by the heavy pressure of the accumulated water, the soft tissues were bruised all over the body, the abdomen was hit hard, the avulsion fracture, the right hand and right leg were severely infected and amputated. Fortunately, I woke up, at least my life was saved. They looked at me nervously and held my intact left hand tightly. Luna, how do you feel? Mom's eyes were red and swollen, obviously she had cried. I tried to force a smile and my voice was hoarse. I made you worry. Victor's mother quickly called other attending doctors and called Victor again. Victor's voice was still as cold as ever. Mom, don't lie to me anymore, I can see clearly what Luna's situation is. Scarlet's child has to do dialysis today, I don't have time to go, you ask her to be quiet. Besides, if she didn't insist on coming, how could she get into trouble? Victor's father's face was flushed with anger and he snatched the phone to scold Victor, but the other party suddenly hung up the phone. When I called again, the service area was no longer in place. Victor's father looked at me and his expression eased. Luna, we, Victor's family, will definitely give you an explanation for this matter. The pain made me frown and sweat, and I couldn't take the time to reply to Victor's father's words. When the doctor came, he looked at me and sighed. It's normal to feel pain after just having surgery. You should pay more attention during this period. The patient may have problems such as infection or bleeding after surgery, and the pain will be aggravated at that time. I was shaking with pain, and the medical staff gave me a shot of analgesic to ease a lot. I took a breath and spoke without any strength. My legs and my hands, are they gone? Several people looked at each other, and my mother and Victor's mother's eyes were instantly red. Luna, you should have a good rest, and everything will be discussed after you are discharged from the hospital. Although I already knew the result was bad, I couldn't help but shed tears. I forced an ugly smile. It's okay, Mom. It's just that I can't play the piano anymore. That's all. My mother thought I was holding on, so she choked up and said, your hands and legs were crushed by a boulder. When you were brought here, you were already bloody and there was no intact flesh. The doctor said it was too late to bring you here. If you didn't amputate, then, plus the lung infection and the blow to the abdomen, the child was not saved. I shook my head to indicate that I was really fine. It's just amputation and the child is gone. At least it's better than losing your life, isn't it? At least I'm still alive and have a chance to start over. The next time I saw Victor was the day I was discharged from the hospital. That day many classmates from the orchestra came to see me. Victor was brought back by Victor's father and his face was still full of dissatisfaction. I sat in a wheelchair and looked at him with an impatient face. This was the last time I looked at him like this. I said quietly, Victor, let's get a divorce. He sneered and said, Luna, do you think I will care about you if you use this trick? I know exactly what kind of person you are. You failed to harm Scarlet, and now you torture yourself to get my mercy. You are so ridiculous. Victor's father couldn't control his emotions and slapped him hard in the face. Beast. What are you talking about? I smiled and whispered, Victor, I don't owe you anything. If I really owe you anything, I have already paid it off because of the child you aborted and the amputated right hand and right foot. Victor covered his face with a sinister look. Luna, don't play tricks on me. I saw your wounds, and the injuries are not serious at all. What else do you want to quibble about? Not serious? The stretcher is clearly covered with my blood, and my hands and feet are clearly bloody. After he finished speaking, I lifted the thin blanket on my legs expressionlessly. Are you satisfied now? The clothes on his right lower limb and right hand were blown by the wind, and it was obvious that there was nothing inside. Victor was stunned for a moment, and then he returned to his usual disdainful expression. Luna, your deception skills are really superb now, and you almost fooled me. My parents' faces were already dark, and they couldn't help but slap him twice. Victor's father took the lead, grabbed Victor's neck, and forced him to kneel in front of me. Beast. Open your eyes and see Luna's hands and feet are gone because of you. Don't you know how to repent? When Victor was forced to kneel down, his center of gravity was unstable and he accidentally hit my broken limb. I screamed in pain, and my mother hurriedly pulled me back and carefully opened it to check. The cross-section of the broken limb was wrinkled and ugly. Victor was stunned in place for a moment, looking at my broken limb. His face gradually turned pale. How is it possible? It's just a little blood. But in a moment, he recovered as usual. Luna, you deliberately amputated your leg just to make me believe you. You are really scheming. Everyone looked at him with strange eyes. Victor's father, Victor's mother and parents were so angry that their hands were shaking, but he didn't care. You deserve what you have today. I pulled the corner of my mouth. Victor, do you know how much I hope it's you who loses this leg? Then I took out the prepared divorce agreement and handed it to him. Sign it and we will have nothing to do with each other in the future and you can guard your Scarlet all day long. He seemed to have heard the biggest joke in the world, took the divorce agreement in my hand and sneered disdainfully. No connection? How can you pay off Scarlet? If you hadn't asked them to isolate Scarlet, how could Scarlet be bullied in the group? I said coldly. I isolate her? What qualifications does she have to be targeted by me? The good sisters in the group behind him rolled their eyes at him, and their tone couldn't help but laugh. Scarlet? We really despise this kind of people. We think it's dirty to be our friend. Not improving their skills, always stabbing others in the back. How dare we make close friends with such people? Victor frowned and said in an unhappy tone, how could Scarlet be such a person? It was Luna who didn't mind making trouble and went to make trouble for Scarlet in private. As a result, she was sad later. The good sister interrupted him. Hey, stop. I really have something to say about that matter. Scarlet's green tea skills are really unmatched. She was still scolding our Luna as a bitch in the last second, saying that Luna couldn't compare to her at all. Oh, she cried when she saw you coming in the next second. Your acting skills are amazing. The good sister gave a thumbs up, and her eyes were full of true admiration. Victor saw that things were not going in the right direction, and his words began to stutter. So what? I will remember the incident when you designed to let Scarlet be defiled at the birthday party for the rest of my life. His tone returned to arrogance, and his eyes became cold. I said helplessly, I said I didn't do that. You don't believe me. He stared at me like an eagle, and his tone was cold and hard. Believe you? I saw it with my own eyes in front of everyone. How can you let me believe you? At the door, a boy pushed through the crowd and walked towards me quickly. His face was angry. Defilement? What do you mean by defilement? She wanted to get close to a rich man and had to get close to me. Can you blame Luna for this? I just helped her, but I didn't expect her to be so scheming. He is one of my best friends in the group except Victor. When Scarlet's incident happened, I didn't believe it. Although he didn't refuse the prey that came to his door, he never forced others to do anything out of the ordinary. Victor couldn't believe the truth of the matter, stiffened his neck and looked pale. If it wasn't you, how could the police take you away? The boy looked at him with disdain. Don't tell me, if I hadn't checked the surveillance at the scene, I really couldn't clear my name. By the way, I threw the back up in front of Victor. The picture showed clearly that it was Scarlet who wanted to stick to him and took the initiative to go into the room with him without any sign of struggle. I sighed. What's the point of entangled with these now? Just sign and leave. Victor's face was cold and his chest was heaving. Even if that's the case, you won't forget that you forced my parents to let me marry you in private, right? I turned my face away and didn't want to respond to him again. No matter how much I explained, he still wouldn't believe me. Victor, what nonsense are you talking about? At that time, your grandmother passed away, and you were absent-minded every day, and you kept shouting Luna's name. We thought you really liked Luna, so we went to talk to your mother-in-law about this marriage. When we asked for your opinion, you nodded in person. Victor's mother's voice came from behind, full of anger. Victor looked at me in disbelief, and his voice of rebuttal was unusually loud. How is it possible? She killed my grandma. I would never agree to marry her even if I died. You are protecting Luna just because she lost a leg? Have you forgotten how grandma died? If Grandma knew that you were protecting the murderer who killed her, she would not be at peace in her reincarnation. It turned out that Victor always thought that I killed Grandma. But Grandma is the person closest to me besides my parents, how could I hurt her? I was so angry that I trembled and I picked up an apple from the table and threw it at Victor. Victor. I'm not as beastly as you. I have been close to Grandma since I was a child, how could I kill her? Why don't you ask your good lover Scarlett and see what she says? His eyes were fixed on me and his smile was provocative. If Scarlett hadn't told me, how would I know that the murderer was you? With Scarlett as a witness, do you still want to deceive me? Victor's mother looked at Victor, getting angrier, while Victor's father went up to him and kicked him in the knee pit, causing him to kneel on one knee in front of everyone. You beast! We checked the surveillance, and it was Scarlett who was so rebellious that she provoked your grandmother, causing her blood pressure to rise and die. You were deceived by this woman for so many years, don't you have a brain? Victor's mother echoed, if we didn't think you couldn't let go of Luna, and your grandmother's closest person was her, how could we arrange this marriage? Your grandmother loves Luna so much, if she were still alive and knew that you treated her like this, she would definitely not forgive you, Victor's mother said, her tone getting sadder. If I had known that this was going to happen between you, I wouldn't have let Luna marry into our family. We owe her all these years. Victor's mother buried my head in her arms, her voice hoarse. You two obviously have such a good relationship. If I knew clearly, I wouldn't let Luna marry you and let you bully her. You have been so ashamed of your mother-in-law and Luna all these years. Victor's mother's voice trembled slightly, her eyes were red, and Victor's father patted her shoulder to comfort her. The divorce agreement in Victor's hand was scattered all over the floor. He looked at me helplessly and then at Victor's mother. It was obviously Luna who threatened you with business, what are you still covering up for her? Victor's mother looked lonely, leaning weakly in Victor's father's arms. The business between Luna's family and Victor's family has always been mutually beneficial, how can there be such a crooked theory as threatening with business? You don't understand the business between our two families, and you fabricate facts and blame Luna at will. We have explained it clearly, but you never listened. Victor's mother's eyes were full of guilt. It's all my fault. All of Luna's misfortunes are my fault. Victor's mother cried heartbreakingly, sobbing uncontrollably in Victor's father's arms. Mom shook her head and sighed, but said nothing. Victor's expression became extremely ugly, as if he was unwilling, and he began to look back and forth between all of us. Finally, he locked onto the girl behind me. When he saw her, Victor's chest visibly breathed a sigh of relief. Even if Luna didn't do all this, she must have directed this. Did Luna instruct you? I saw you and your men stop Scarlett outside the competition venue, and we almost couldn't participate in the competition. The girl pointed out had an innocent look on her face. Me? Are you sure it was me? Victor smiled proudly. It was you. I saw it with my own eyes. The girl twitched her lips and tried to recall. You wouldn't say that Luna's wrist was injured and she was replaced by Scarlett in the competition? Victor saw that she remembered it, and his expression became more proud. It's good to remember it. The girl looked unhappy, as if she was looking at a moron. Are you sick? I don't know those two people at all. They followed me from the street to the entrance of the competition venue. I even suspected that I was touched on my bag. One of the men even touched my butt, and I sued him back. She put her hands on her waist and looked at Victor with a gloomy face. Victor stood there in a cold voice, looking a little unnatural. Why are you still quibbling? I saw it with my own eyes. My friend knocked down Victor's outstretched hand. You saw shit. Those two people were later arrested and taken to the police station. The surveillance showed that Scarlett gave them a sum of money. Do you think Scarlett was detained? The fact is that when Victor called Scarlett the day after the game, the line was always busy and he couldn't get through. I have lost my patience. Victor talked a lot here, just to find faults in me so that he can save face. But I don't want to do what he wants. Victor, enough. After saying so much, you found that it wasn't me. Are you disappointed? I picked up the pen on the table next to him and handed it to him expressionlessly. Now that the child is gone, there is nothing to say between us. But Victor, you must always remember that my current situation is all because of you. I will never forgive you in my life. I returned Victor's words at the wedding intact. After signing, you can be with your beloved Scarlett forever. What are you still hesitating about? Seeing this, my friend picked up the divorce agreement on the ground and handed it to him. Victor looked down at the two things with a strange expression on his face. The next moment, he looked at my broken leg and chuckled. Divorce me? Luna, do you think anyone will want you if you lose your arms and legs? My hand holding the pen trembled slightly and I clenched my teeth to prevent my emotions from collapsing. My father, who had been silent all the time, suddenly walked up to me, slapped Victor hard, and then kicked him. Victor fell to the ground in front of everyone before he could react, looking extremely embarrassed. He covered his stomach and groaned in pain. Victor, I have always tolerated you because you and Luna were childhood sweethearts, but I didn't expect you to be so ignorant. After Luna divorces you, she doesn't need to marry anyone else. Our Luna family is rich and powerful, and they will take good care of their daughter. You don't need to worry about this kind of ill intentions. Dad's tone was extremely angry. I rarely saw him so angry. This was the first time and it was for me. Victor didn't dare to speak again. He slowly got up from the ground with an extremely ugly look. The next second, his phone rang. Victor, Xiaobao's kidney source is gone again. Please save Xiaobao. Victor said anxiously, what's going on? It's Luna. Just now Luna humiliated me in the hospital and personally called the donor, saying that she would give him 500,000 yuan to let him give up the donation. He agreed. Victor, please, save Xiaobao. The voice in the mobile phone speaker was crying heartbreakingly, as if it was really done by me. Victor's expression suddenly became very stiff. Who do you say? A positive voice came from the other end, it's Luna. How can she buy Xiaobao's life with money? I chuckled and snatched the phone from Victor's hand. Are you talking about me? Miss Scarlett? The other end was obviously stunned and then quickly hung up the phone. Everyone looked at each other and finally my friend laughed out loud. Well? What a good show. Luna is here, why go to the hospital to humiliate her? Is Scarlett mentally ill? She dares to say anything. Victor was stunned in place, his lips trembling slightly and he didn't dare to look at me. Everyone was laughing at him and I was no exception. Time passed for a long time, so long that when I thought Victor would not speak again, he began to confess under the gaze of everyone. Luna? So, it's all a misunderstanding? How could this happen? How could this happen? I never thought that things would turn out like this between us. I didn't care, so what? We can't go back, Victor. He wanted to say something else but when he saw my empty hands and feet, he couldn't say anything. All my scars are due to him. I never saw Victor again in the next few days. I changed all my contact information and didn't want to see him again. After Victor couldn't find me, he started to come to my house and beg me to see him. Men always regret after the fact, which is disgusting. How could I see him? But Victor didn't give up. After waiting for more than 10 days from morning to night, I began to get a little tired. We should make things clear. When he came in, he was unshaven and not as handsome as before. His eyes were red and his face was haggard. He knelt in front of me before I could speak. Luna, can you still forgive me? I stepped back in my wheelchair. Victor, I think I made it very clear that day. When the scale in your heart still leaned towards Scarlett after my amputation, I was relieved. So, I don't hate you, and I won't forgive you. Without even hatred, how can I forgive? He looked at me and his eyes were filled with tears. In my impression, Victor only cried after Scarlett died in the previous life. This time, it was for me. He grabbed his already messy hair and his expression became panic. Luna, I don't ask you to forgive me. You hate me. You hate me. He knelt and walked forward. My step back made Victor move aside at a loss, saying sorry all the time. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. I looked up looking tired. Victor, go away. Luna, I really know I was wrong. I didn't know Scarlett was that kind of person, so? I won't do it again in the future. I only trust you. I will only trust you in the future, okay? He hysterically proved that he had repented, but the past hurts would never disappear, and I couldn't trust him again. No. My tone was stiff and he trembled all over when he heard my words and his tone gradually became humble. I really know I was wrong. If it weren't for Scarlett's tricks, how could I have misunderstood? Before he finished speaking I interrupted him directly. Don't blame Scarlett for everything. She was wrong, but if you didn't believe in her unconditionally, how could these things happen? So Victor, don't be a bitch in front of me anymore. It's really disgusting. My eyes turned disgusted when I looked at him. His lips trembled and he asked unwillingly, Luna, do you really think of me like this? I said without hesitation, yes. Did you hear that clearly? Get out. He lowered his head and remained silent for a long time and at the same time he heard a low sob. Finally he stood up and turned his back to me. I know. I was sorry for you before, and I will make it up to you in the future. I don't need his compensation nor do I need his belated affection. Victor, don't bother me again in the future. You should know that belated affection is cheaper than grass. He left silently without saying a word. 2 days later Victor and I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a divorce certificate. Since then I have never seen Victor again. Victor's mother has not visited me for a long time. When I saw Victor's mother again her face was not as good as before and there was a hint of fatigue in her eyes. She was worried and looked at me with hesitation. I said casually, Auntie, if you have anything to say, just say it. Victor's mother bit her trembling lips when she heard what I said and slowly said, Luna, Auntie hopes you can go see Victor. I was puzzled. What's wrong with him? Auntie didn't come to see you during this period because of Victor. He didn't want to eat or drink at home for the past 2 months, and he has attempted suicide countless times. As she spoke, Victor's mother's tears burst out like a river bank releasing floodwaters. I never thought that Victor would actually go to the point of committing suicide even though his heart was still so strong after Scarlett's death in the previous life. Auntie, please, just go and see him. I know, Victor is very sorry for you, but he is my only child after all. Victor's mother knelt on the floor, leaning against my wheelchair, her body trembling. How could I not understand a mother's heart? I was silent for a long time and finally supported Auntie's body and let her sit on the sofa. It's too late today, can I go see him tomorrow? Victor's mother burst into tears. I'm sorry, Luna, Auntie really has no other choice but to beg you. Auntie doesn't ask you to forgive him, I just hope you can look at him and let him go. I forced a bitter smile and nodded gently, I know. The next day when I went to see Victor, it was Victor's mother who came to pick me up. Although the distance between our two houses is only 3 minutes. Victor's mother said that Victor locked himself in the room and didn't let anyone in. I knocked on the door and Victor inside said in an angry tone, "Don't bother me anymore, let me be alone." I said softly, "I heard that you have been quiet for 2 months." Victor recognized my voice and there was a ping-pong sound in the room. Finally, he rolled and crawled to open the door. He fell outside the door looking particularly embarrassed and his appearance was even more unbearable than the last time I saw him. Seeing that it was me, his voice became gentle. "Luna, you are here." I took 2 steps back in the wheelchair to keep a distance between him and me. "You've lost weight." I looked at him and saw obvious scars on both wrists, some of which had not yet healed. He saw my eyes and hurriedly covered them up. "Yes, I've been too busy recently." I pursed my lips and nodded, "Let it go." He looked at me in astonishment, his expression kept dodging, "I've let it go." "Can you fool me, can you fool yourself?" "Victor, I've let it go and you should let it go too." My tone was still soft, and I didn't show anger. If it weren't for Victor's mother, I wouldn't see him. I told him a lot, and he seemed to listen to it. Like a child who did something wrong, tears fell. When I left, Victor didn't cry and beg for my forgiveness like before. He just sent me back calmly. I went abroad to relax and made the best prosthesis by the way. Later, Victor's mother never mentioned Victor to me again. When I heard about Victor again, it was my mother who called me to come back for the funeral. She said he was a very important person. I thought about it for a long time, but I couldn't figure out who it was. Until I saw Victor's black and white photo at the funeral. Victor's father and mother had white hair overnight, their eyes were red, and their faces were pale. Seeing me coming, Victor's mother's tears fell again, and she hugged me and cried bitterly. I comforted her silently. I heard from my mother that Victor had been dismissed from the fire brigade. Someone recorded part of the video showing Victor's irrational behavior during the flash flood and spread it online. Everyone soon learned that his wife, me, had amputation and miscarriage because Victor insisted on saving his lover, which led to the official account of our city's fire department being criticized. He was also completely exposed to the public's eyes and became a street rat that everyone shouted and beat, and was in a miserable state. Someone dug out Victor's mobile phone number, and insulting words were constantly sent to his mobile phone. "You are worse than a dog for eating the country's food and saving your lover. You can't even protect your own wife, do you deserve to live?" Under the attack of online violence, Victor dared not go out and huddled in a dark room like a dark mouse, never daring to see the sun again. When Victor's mother knocked on Victor's door one morning, he was lying on the bed, pale and breathless. Victor died. The forensic doctor detected a large amount of undigested sleeping pills in his stomach. The video that was posted online was reposted more than 10,000 times and has been on the hot list for 3 days. Scarlett, the lover that Victor risked his life to save, was also dug up with all the information of Victor. The band removed her from the band, Victor died, and Scarlett's source of income was completely cut off. The band's chief mother, who once sold her misery online, was criticized to death. It was also found that the money Victor used to treat Scarlett's child was all used by Scarlett to buy many luxury goods. When her child was seriously ill, she was forced to give up treatment because she couldn't afford the medical expenses. She died on the day I had amputation and miscarriage. What happened later was just Scarlett cheating money to satisfy her vanity. The police quickly filed a case and launched an investigation. Scarlett was suspected of illegal fundraising and was sentenced to 3 years. Victor cut off contact with her. She refused to go to prison and couldn't accept the blows that followed. She went crazy. I went to see her. When she saw me, she was stunned for a moment. Then she wanted to come up and pull me with a hideous face. "You vicious woman, you killed my son and my husband. I will definitely kill you, I will definitely kill you." I looked at her calmly and unmoved. The prison guard next to me saw Scarlett's loss of control and asked me to come back next time. I nodded and left, but there would be no next time. Standing in this vast world, I looked at the installed prosthesis and recalled the death of my previous life. I suddenly felt that their end was just the right arrangement of God, and being alive now is the greatest luck for me. The past is the past, and I should also look forward.